Hello, greetings and salutations, and welcome to a podcast that's only mostly about video games. Unfortunately, Liam's gotten hung up at the office this week, so for now, my name is George Weedman, and I have with me Matt Visual, and this week we have a guest. We have Alex, who operates a channel you might have heard of called LowSpec Gamer, which is all about lowering settings, optimizing and modding textures and models so that they're all low enough to look like an actual new Tesla vehicle reveal.
I was hoping I could get through this entire podcast without a reference. I woke up with 100 Twitter notifications of people making that joke.
So Matt, have you seen the new Tesla auto truck?
Is that the Cybertruck?
The Cybertruck, my bad. That's even worse. Auto truck sounds more normal than Cybertruck.
I would buy that.
You would buy a Cybertruck?
I would buy that, yeah. Yeah, it depends on how it looks like inside. Did they show anything inside?
Yeah, the videos that have been posted, it looks very bare, but it's probably a prototype. So God knows how it's going to look at the end.
I'm just hoping that the dashboard is like full of glowing green lettering. I want glowing green lettering in there.
Yeah, it looks very quote-unquote futuristic. It's pretty fun.
Like a warthog.
On low settings.
Yeah.
On low settings. It's definitely a PC, old school, combat evolved Halo.
It looks like if you throw anything at it, it'll just roll over the top and slide down the bottom. And it looks like a good wedge. You know, like those old battle robot programs? Yeah. It looks like one of those.
Welcome to Dad and Sons, your premier Tesla podcast.
Yeah. Yes. Here on the Dad and Sons podcast, we occasionally talk about video games, like I don't know, a third of the time or something. So with that being said, I guess now might be a good time to talk about video games.
What have you been playing, LowSpec?
So honestly, most of it has been Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order.
Okay. What platform?
PC, evidently.
Okay.
And I started it with the idea of exploring to see if it was a good video idea, but still, it's a Star Wars game. It's a single-player Star Wars game, which is something that I have been hoping for. I don't know, what's the last time we got a single-player Star Wars game?
Long time ago.
Several presidents ago.
Yeah. So when I started the game, I was at least hoping it didn't suck. Then 2 hours in, after the combat clicked with me and I finally understood like how the game was expecting me to play it, it all came together. And by the end of it, I finished the game yesterday. It took me about 22 hours. I didn't 100% it, but did a lot of it. And by the time I finished, I felt it's probably one of the best single-player Star Wars games I've ever played. Definitely the best like lightsaber Jedi sort of game. It's just fantastic to me because it's a very good game with some with a lot of bugs and QA issues that makes me wonder if they had to rush to a release date because it's rough around a lot of edges. But where it counts, it's very good, and it's very different to what I expected the game to be based on, like, what was it, like the E3 reveal or something, when they originally talked and showed the game, which made me think, like, this is a very interesting case of a game, I think, being promoted wrongly. As I went to Twitter and started asking people, like, wow, why aren't more people talking about this game? This game is amazing. I either seem to get two responses entirely. People who have tried the game and were going like, I know, it's amazing. I have played for 20 hours straight. And people going, I don't know, it looked boring in the trailer, so I didn't even try. With like very little in between. And that was like super interesting to me.
I've gone back and forth. I'm still opening myself to the possibility of playing it later, but my excitement dampened a little bit with some review scores and some videos after launch. Before launch, I was hoping for something that would follow up on a lot of fond childhood memories I had playing the Jedi games, but it doesn't look like that's the kind of combat and the sense of movement they're going for. I feel like it looks like Dark Souls, but Star Wars, which is fine. I just got to get in the mood for that, you know?
Yeah, it's Dark Souls light. Like, it doesn't go as deep in certain things as Dark Souls go, and it goes a little bit... It's Dark Souls combined with Metroidvania, and the combat is not very. It's more Sekiro than Dark Souls. It's very parry heavy. It's very timing based.
Concentrating on that one critical blow.
Exactly. Yeah, it's interesting because when I started playing it, I felt like this is not a lightsaber. You get blocked constantly. Like your lightsaber doesn't feel like it's going through everything. And by the end of the game, when you actually like master how to use the parry, you're just tearing through dozens of enemies because you know all the animation cycles. And once you break an enemy's defense, almost every enemy goes down like 2 hits. So it's very skills based.
I have an important question.
Yes.
What happens when the lightsaber touches a wall?
Nothing. And that's one of the bad things about the game.
No!
Yeah, there's not a lot of detail there.
Yeah, if you swing it towards a wall, there's like a decal that makes it look like you have cut through a metal.
So you can't draw penises like in the good old days?
Yeah,
No.
exactly. That was one of my main criticisms of it, to be honest.
God, that was such a good feature that was so long ago that you'd think... I guess the reason why it hasn't become standard is because some engines don't, and some surfaces in the games don't handle being able to draw an actual freestyle line on it, like the smooth, glassy textures of a Quake 3 game from 2001.
Yeah. I suspect it's one of those things that they quite didn't get to do in the game because there's a lot of basic stuff that is missing. That is a lot of basic animations that fail in places you don't expect it to. A lot of stuff that makes you wonder, like the development history of this game must be really interesting because something happened there. But one way or another, they decided to focus on like the most basic stuff, like just getting that the level design is there, just that the combat feels good once you handle it. And at least on that area, it works.
So I played for PS4, and there was a lot of bugs, like falling through the ground, and I mean none of this really mattered because I was kind of enjoying the game anyway because it's Star Wars. If you grew up with it, you're probably just gonna deal with a lot of the trash. But man, it was a lot of trash. It was a lot of trash going on there. And one thing that stood out a lot was the backtracking. How do you feel about the level design? Because sometimes it's okay, but sometimes you have to backtrack a lot of space, a lot of empty space, and it like throws off the pacing quite a bit.
Yeah, I feel a lot of it comes down to maybe not orientating players because the level design does a lot of the Dark Souls thing where it constantly opens shortcuts to places you have visited before. And if you sort of map your routes, there's a lot of places where you either take the optimal route and you do it quickly and you have a couple of good fights in the middle, or you take the long route, which is the one that you already have in your head, which is just a pain and it's very long. And it's not always very obvious. At least it wasn't to me, when there's like a more optimal route to go through to do the backtracking, which is possibly what they expected, what they like design around, but you end up doing like the long, boring one. So, but I don't know. Since it reminds me so much of Metroid Prime, which is I think pretty much the only 3D Metroidvania that I can refer to. It reminded me a lot of that, of going through a lot of areas in Metroid Prime and just memorizing and trying to find quicker ways of doing it and just using your upgrades to open up new stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I gotta say though, Second Sister kind of stole the show for me.
Oh God, there's a fight. It's not the Second Sister fight, but there's a fight later in the game when you're fighting one of the Inquisitors, which is to me the best, like what I have imagined for generations, for game generations that I will get to play eventually as a lightsaber fight. Like you are on the edge of your seat trying to find those key places that you have to parry, and your parry windows are so small, and desperately trying to block all your opponent lightsaber blows, and there's sparks flying everywhere and the lightsaber sounds. And by the time I ended at that battle, I remember like I paused the game and thought to myself, like, I have been waiting for a battle like that for like a decade. So it has its
Hello?
Is everything okay over there?
Sorry about that. I was gesticulating while talking, and I think I tripped the cable.
Too into it?
Yeah, sorry. I hope it sells so they have the time and the budget to make a less buggy second one.
Less buggy. and I wish I played on PC because I heard PC has less bugs. But PS4, the graphics sometimes dipped. They were stuttering. It wasn't so good.
If I may add something, I think this is one of those games that is truly like pushing the idea of generations, because I play it on PC and I tried in a variety of systems, but the friends that I have that have been playing them, like, were you using the base PS4 or like the PS4 Pro? Okay, I think that's the thing, because the people I have heard that have been playing it on PS4, or even worse, the Xbox One S, I think is the base model. There's like the frame rate is 25 FPS constantly. The game like gets stuck loading in random places for up to like 10 seconds. Like this is a game that was not for this generation of consoles.
No, it's those consoles are showing their age, man. It's weird because you play God of War, you play all these other games, and then you go to Star Wars and it's lagging. It's dying.
Yeah.
I was a little confused for a second. I was like, man, what happened to this game? And usually I play on PC, but I mean, it was just right there at Redbox. So I was just like, yeah, I'll get it for PS4. Nice and easy. Because right now, I should be watching your channel because I just have this gaming laptop that I've had with a 1060 inside for a while now. And it's starting to show its age with all these new games coming out. So I'm just like maybe I'll just play it on console just to make things a little bit easier and get a firm frame rate. But I was wrong.
Based on the testing I have done, that laptop will have done much better than your PlayStation.
I bet.
I think it's a little interesting that the game is getting so much recognition for being the only single-player Star Wars game in a long time. Like, that's... it seems so weird to think of that as being... something notable about a video game coming out throughout the year, because they used to be all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
Like until
LucasArts was going nuts.
Up until the 6th console generation, they shopped that brand out to everybody, and it's a universe that's so adaptable to video games. Like, you can make racing games, you can make card games and RPGs and shooters and fighting games if you really want to, and I guess there's two factors of how weird the business has gone and how Disney took over Star Wars and for some reason doesn't know how to sell the video game licenses out to other developers outside of the EA bubble. But also the saturation of it was intense, and I don't know how excited I am now after so many decades almost of Star Wars to be thinking about getting ready to play a Star Wars game like Sekiro, considering how exhausting Sekiro was. Like,
oh my god!
Liam beat it. He loved it. It's like one of his favorite games of this year. I think Matt reluctantly went through it, and I kind of fell off.
Yeah, I beat it. And then I never touched it again.
I stopped playing for a couple weeks and came back, and I was so much worse than I was earlier that I think I can't catch up to my own part of the difficulty curve I left off at.
Oh god. Then I don't recommend you raise the difficulty on Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order.
It's the videos. Okay, the videos that I have seen were ones about how the hitboxes are wonky, and my brain is like, oh god, do I really want to invest myself in another super duper difficult melee action game with wonky hitboxes?
It's not difficult. It's not difficult. You can mash your way through it.
Yeah, in lower difficulties you can mash your way through it easily.
Okay.
And you can throw people off buildings and sides, and you can there's weird places where you die too. Like if you stop you have the slow power, and if you stop something from spinning, and you happen to jump on it, and it starts spinning again after the slow. After it goes back to regular speed, you die automatically instead of just swinging around. Even if you're at the middle of where it's spinning at, where it doesn't move at all. It doesn't matter. Like just a lot of little things like that throughout the entire game that is just weird.
I'm picturing the character just like suddenly ragdolling in the middle of a platforming
is exactly
puzzle.
what happens. And if you put like enemies on there, they will die too. Like,
Yeah.
they will die on poles that you're supposed to balance on. They'll die on anything. Like you can really you can really cheat bosses that way too.
Stormtrooper lives are not that valuable throughout the franchise.
And you know that they got that right. The stormtroopers do say some really crazy stormtrooper stuff,
Funny stuff. Yeah.
I think
the voice acting is good. The guy from Shameless is the main character is good. Second Sister, I swear to wow.
I think I've seen it characterized as this being one of the games where you sneak up on a couple guards and they're talking about how easily they could be killed right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. I guess I'm the only one when you kill everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my god. Oh, he's running. It's so funny. It's so funny.
Yeah, my favorite one is if you eliminate a group and there's only one left, and that one gets a hit on you and hits you with like his electro staff or something. He goes, "I hit the Jedi. Oh no, I should not have done
no.
It's so good.
It's really...
I guess this is kind of spoilers, LowSpec, but that end fight though, you know, the fight you had to run away from. That I felt like that was more realistic than Unleashed.
Pure fan service,
I would say.
Yes, yeah, but that was pure. The end of the game is very much. If you're a Star Wars person, if you like the classic movies and all its universe, it's an ending that you're going to enjoy a lot. And it's very hard to say more than that without spoiling it massively.
That part is when I got chills. I was like, oh yeah, this is what I wanted.
Oh, yeah. This is same. Yeah.
I like Crazy Force stuff. I wish there was. Force Unleashed was like a little bit more crazier, but yeah.
Yeah, but Force Unleashed was more like a hack and slash game. This is more like a Souls game, I guess.
Yeah. When we say Souls game, George, when you die, you lose like your last points to level up. So like if you're going to 6 to 7, you lose all those points to go to 7.
You can get them back from the spot you died at.
Yeah. You just gotta hit that monster once and then you get it back. But yeah.
And your recovery items are limited and they only reappear on checkpoints and such. But that also respawns all enemies. Yeah.
So on a slightly different note, but still related on the notes of games that look too good for this generation, but still run fine on a PlayStation 4. Speaking of games that some people kind of drop out of halfway through, I'm of course still chipping away at Death Stranding. I think we have some melancholy news for the rest of the podcast, though. Liam's not here to give the report himself, but we have been told in behind the scenes Dad and Sons chats that Liam has kind of sort of fallen off of Death Stranding, and Matt, I believe you have.
Oh no!
As
I'm like what, chapter 9? I'm just waiting for you guys to catch up.
I don't understand how you
push myself
so fast.
I'm not. What do you mean? I've been on that for like a week now.
And
I just stopped playing.
I've been playing every day for like 3-4 hours for a week and a half, and
You probably take the long way for everything.
No,
I told you what I did last time. I take the bike and I ram it up a mountain every single time. Well, I do not care, and I spray the damn cargo so it's nice and pretty, and I get my S rank. And I go and do the next run because it's like doing a job with that game. It's like doing a freaking job.
Well,
and then they talk about, oh, your cargo is great. It's such a, oh my god. And then you play something like Star Wars, and you're like, this is what games are like. They're fun.
What? This is what games are like. Okay,
I'm sorry. Right. When you play hours of that game, you just lose. You just get numb.
Well, maybe that's why it's better to play it at 3-4 hours a day instead of the whole dang thing in a week.
Oh no! What do you mean? That's worse. That's worse. Every 3 days, you're clocking in on the clock to deliver packages? That's a job.
And then when you feel done, you're actually done and you don't have to keep hammering away at something. Okay, I think there's a lot of practical, easy ways to narrow down on why this game reviewed divisively. And I think one is that it's not meant to be rushed through. Two is that the more the game stays alive out there with players in it for this first, I don't know, 6 month to a year process, you're going to have a lot more player buildings than you did with reviewers. Matt, you say you always drive a bike straight up a mountain. I feel like if I tried that, the bike's going to break and it's going to end up being a longer walk than if I take a quiet route around. You also think that, like, I'm taking the long routes for everything and I'm not? Okay.
If you've been playing every day for 3 hours...
Oh, not every day, but at least
already.
most days for 3 hours. And I think I'm really, really, really freaking close to the end with the way the story's gone so far.
Have you reached Heartman?
A few times. Okay, so I guess... would it be a spoiler to say what happens like 2/3 of the way through Death Stranding and the route they want you to do when...
Wait, Alex, have you played?
Do you care?
I'm waiting for it to come out in PC.
Oh, that's probably better.
All right, so there's a second half of the game that's a sort of gameplay spoiler that I definitely have questions about how fast of a route they want you to draw, because it feels like I skipped a big chunk of what would have taken another 2 hours of gameplay by driving through an area that felt kind of unfinished. But in any case, I don't know. The gameplay, I think, is fine. The story, I think, is mediocre. The reception it's been getting, I'm still confused about why there is so much, like, animosity towards a lot of the game's core mechanical desires to make walking around interesting and fun, when there are still, like, commenters out there saying, like, oh, they just took the gameplay out, when you kind of got to pay attention to what you're doing during every millisecond to millisecond controller interaction of Death Stranding.
Wait, what? You have to what? No, you don't. What are you talking about? You just drive. You literally just drive.
And when you're driving,
one button and you drive, and then you control a little stick to make sure you don't run into anything.
Yeah, there are little rocks you got to pay attention to. You got to manage your inventory. You got to manage your battery while you're around driving.
All-terrain little leg things, and you hold L2 and R2 as you do anything, and you're good. You're good. You're good.
I feel like you're describing what it felt like when I was playing Breath of the Wild, and that this game fixes one of those critical problems I had with Breath of the Wild, and that was that the movement was boring. I'm not finding the movement boring in this game. Why are people like Donkey finding the movement boring in Death Stranding?
Oh, I haven't even watched that. I'd love to hear that. All right, I'm being harsh. Just in case Alex is not used to it. But no, like it's I don't know. People walk everywhere. I don't walk. Once I got the cars, I didn't walk anywhere.
What about the mountains?
Unless I had to. Like up in the mountains, it's probably hard to.
Yeah.
No, I've never broke my bike, except for one time I ran out of gas very, very recently, when I had to do. They make you do multiple runs, like, right after each other. And I was like, forget, this bike is just getting annoying. And I just got on my feet and started walking.
Are you talking about the mountains?
Yeah, the mountains.
Yeah, the mountains. The mountains were great. Like, that's what I was worried about, actually, based on last week's podcast.
There's many mountains, but I had the bike throughout the whole time. I didn't want to sit there and walk through BTs. That's so annoying.
But what
BTs
about the mountains are like cliffs and they're rock. You can't drive your bike over.
Yes, you can.
Oh, okay. I was worried that the game would get boring and turn into a lot more driving, and then they throw you in this mountain area where driving doesn't work. And you're saying driving does work in the mountains? Like you just drive your motorcycle up these sheer cliffs they want you to climb?
Yeah.
How?
Well, you're talking about something that I need to use a ladder for?
Yeah. How do you drive your bicycle up a cliff?
I've never had to use a ladder ever since like the first part of the game.
The fuck?
There's always another way, I guess, and you're just taking a harder way.
Oh yeah, there's always another way, but it's like a 10-minute detour.
Not with a bike.
Okay, what about the snow? What do you do when you gotta go up a snowy cliff? You just drive your bike up the snowy cliff.
The bike. I have a couple PCCs throw down a generator, boom, done. That's why you're taking so long. You're sitting there taking 30 minutes to reach a destination when it's taking me like a third of that.
I feel like I've tried the bike in the mountains and it didn't work, and then I got it and I understood what they wanted you to do, and I ended up having a more interesting, fun challenge with the mountains.
Did you slide back and you're like, oh, I can't do it? Or did you like try to curve the bike sideways and like real life and kind of like swerve up the mountain?
I remember ditching the bike at the way station halfway to the mountain town, and then you have to sneak past people who would have heard the bike, so I was fine ditching it anyway. And then I got to the mountain town and tried making a bike, but the cliffs were too steep, so I started making a network of zip lines anyway, and they connected with the other players' zip lines, and over like 2 days of 3-hour sessions playing it, I saw a network of zip lines gradually evolve, made by other players, and I was like, oh, this is cool, I'm building a connection with them.
Okay, so during the Snowy Mountains, you actually had zip lines? Because I didn't have anything. Nothing was out there.
And I feel like that's
player stuff, nothing.
Another thing that caused the game to review poorly is that they don't have the network of player buildings at the times they would have been starting this 2-3 weeks ago.
Yeah, but this was like less than a week ago. I played this like 3 days ago. I gave it a try, did a chapter, and I was like, all right, I got my fill. I'm gonna wait for everyone else to catch up. Because as soon as I beat it, I'm going to forget about it. Like this game is cool. It's great. Not to say I don't recommend it. It's just, there's a lot of filler in it, and I sometimes just don't want to do it.
And I suspect that as time goes on and more of a player infrastructure is created, it will be easier to deal with that.
Yeah, I'm waiting for all that to kind of flow in, so I can just go back in the game. And all of a sudden, there's roads everywhere. I'm like, yeah. Even though I don't understand how the roads work, because I'm pretty sure there are people who have built roads all around their world, but it doesn't show up in my world.
Yeah, it matches you up with the kind of grab bag of other players. You don't get the entire... every customer of Death Stranding doesn't pool in together. You're in an instance with, like, a randomized percentage of other players.
That's kind of a shame. I was hoping this will transform into a thing where the game in a year will be like completely urbanized or something.
That would be amazing.
Maybe, actually. It depends on whether or not people can work out viable strategies with it, depending on whether or not they can figure out the algorithm the game uses to actually choose who you match up with. Because one thing I was trying to do is like filter a friends list out of all the other player buildings you see, but that's not how they want you to do it. They want everyone to be anonymous. But that... because it does not reliably connect people by region or friends list or some such, it seems like it would be difficult to strategize, like everyone focusing on a certain region of the map that they want to rebuild the roads at.
Yeah, because if you guys were there on the friends list, I would want to build the roads. But since it's just random people, I was just like, I don't go out of my way. I build some of the roads because, I mean, it's almost necessary sometimes to have like an enjoyable experience, but I don't go out of my way.
But at the end of the day, well, you played in an experience that is unideal. But even considering that, would you still say it's a good game?
Yes, I do think it's a good game. Like Death Stranding is a good game. Everyone should go and buy it and walk around and deliver packages. Wow, Pokemon, Star Wars, Fallen Order. You know, it's Outer Worlds, all those games are out. You should go out and deliver packages.
I'm having fun. There are tens of us having fun with it. I am of the opinion that it's a good game. I'm having fun with it, but I'm not gonna say it's clearly not for everyone.
Yeah, I think that's an important point. Because it's something that I think has been important in the whole discussion that I have seen on Twitter in general, people talking about this game, is if this has been like an indie studio or something, this would likely have been like an interesting cult hit or something people will have analyzed and will create an interesting community around it. But it's not. It's like a AAA Kojima thing, and it's a game that it doesn't appeal to a wide gaming audience. And that means that the people that it appeals to are going to enjoy it a lot, and everyone else is going to make a lot of noise in Twitter talking about how Kojima is like cheating everyone or something.
It has the production values that like are gonna push a weird idea like this through to enjoyment for people who care about it. Like, what I think is really important here is that a game was made about how cool it is to climb a mountain and not kill a bunch of hundreds of anonymous bad guys who throw their lives away at you as soon as they spot you. Like, an enemy encounter in Death Stranding will be seeing dots of bad guys chasing you 2 hills away. Like, it's a lot of long-term, long-distance, non-violent engagement that I find compelling. I love the idea that the little rocks and pebbles on the ground are the obstacles built into your level design. And I realize that someone who's gonna want more action is gonna want to play a different game, but I'm a fan of the chill moments in games where you can explore a place, put together a piece of story based on what you're looking at, but also I tend to get bored in stuff like Breath of the Wild, where there's a lot of wide open space that has you holding down the up button. Granted, even if you're jiggling the up button slightly left and right to avoid the pebbles on the ground, like that is enough for me. That is the level of interaction that I feel turns the downtime in this game into something interesting, and the transportation in this game into a intriguing puzzle. And that's what I'm there for. I'm there for the puzzle of the navigation. I'm there for the sense of accomplishment of carrying piles of boxes up a really, really steep hill, and I'm feeling something out of that. I guess, like, did it not feel like an accomplishment to do the little victories the game has you doing, Matt?
No, I don't, like, just to clarify here, I'm having a little bit of fun, but, like, I don't think people like Kojima scammed anyone. This is Kojima's type of thing.
There's a lot in there too.
This is Kojima's thing. Like, I was fully aware what I was gonna get.
Remember the ladder, guys? Remember the ladder in MGS3? Remember that whole big chunk of MGS3 where you just walk through the swamps and don't deal with bad guys for like an hour?
I like made a joke on Twitter, like, delivery man. Like, I knew what I was gonna get. Like, I know. That's why I'm making fun of it. I like that it's different. I like the weird, uncomfortable shower scene with 2 males. I love
with your
that
controller
stuff, man.
beating to the heartbeat.
Yeah. I've said all this stuff last podcast, so Alex is probably getting like all the just me just messing around. But no, like, I enjoy Kojima's, I don't know, like, weird brain. Do I think it's filler heavy and a lot of wasted time? Yes, absolutely. But I do like the game in some weird way, because I rather have a few weird games than just the same old AAA garbage.
Yeah. Like, I am all about controller gimmicks and novelty.
Yeah, like, I want people to do weird stuff like this.
I would so much rather play a janky experimental game about carrying packages up mountains than a slick, highly produced Call of Duty campaign where everything works fine.
Yeah, I will beat Death Stranding, but you will never see me pick up Call of Duty. I used to play Call of Duty all the time, but now it's kind of just don't. It's just the same thing over and over.
Yeah, I think the thing about the discourse regarding this game is that since a lot of the hype built around it was about how this genius mind of Hideo Kojima was bringing it, that means that even before the game came out, there were already a lot of people who were like eager to prove that he was a fake, that he was not a genius, and that means that there's already a lot of people already decided what they're going to think about. So when you present them with a game that requires, I guess, a little bit of introspection to think if it's a good game or not a good game, it's easier, I think, to default into it's not fun, therefore it's not immediately fun in the way that I define a fun game, therefore it's bad. It's just different. And I think, to be honest, seeing the review scores it got and hearing how people are talking about it, about how different it is, I'm surprised that it got such decent averages at the end of the day.
For me, it all breaks down when you start having to specify what fun actually is. Because in the very beginning of the game, like it took me a while to understand that walking was supposed to be the challenge, but it did not take me long to have fun. Like when I walked to the very first station and got the next order, and I saw that line being drawn across the map and how they want you to customize your route along the way and then plan it out and then see how whether or not your plan actually works. Like it snapped with me. I was like, oh, this is like in the classic Rainbow Six games when you draw lines across a map to execute a plan and see whether or not it works, and then you got to improvise in the actual gameplay and correct your pathway. There were a lot of analogies I was making to other games that are a lot more violent and shooty that still made the fun that there was to be had there come out in a way that was not that difficult for me to wrestle with. The longevity of it all is a little more difficult. The fact that it keeps going forever and ever. But I'm surprised at the new environments they're bringing up that keep making new challenges out of it. Like you gotta, in the beginning of the game, there's mountains, and then in the next chunk of the game, there's a big desert where you want to build the supplies to build roads over the desert. Then they throw you into the snowy mountains, and it seems like there's interesting ways to navigate all of those environments in a way that. I can't say it's gotten stale, but it sure is a lot slower paced than I would want it to be. I would have hoped the story would have wrapped up 3 days ago. And it feels like climax is lasting way too damn long. I feel like everyone gave Kojima a shitload of praise for the ending of Metal Gear Solid 3, where the tension is ramping up from a car chase that's like... the ending of Metal Gear Solid 3 is an extremely exciting 3-hour-long car chase, and I feel like he took some accolades from that way too seriously and decided to make a 3-day-long climax scene for Death Stranding, and it's not as compelling over such a big period of time, stretching out your endings like this.
Yeah.
Anyways, I do still get a sense of excitement over the fact that they just made a game out of hiking. Yeah.
Walking.
We are living in a pretty okay economy. There's a shitload of money that's able to support these kinds of projects like Death Stranding that has an exclusivity deal with Sony to get a lot of money pumped into this risky game project to sell consoles rather than game copies. On the other side of the fence, we have a game like Outer Worlds, which has an exclusivity deal, well, some sort of, not exclusivity deal, but some sort of deal signed with the Microsoft Game Store, which allows them to make a risky, weird game that will still make money and get played by people buying the subscription service rather than copies of the game. Alex, you actually wanted to talk about Outer Worlds.
Yes. I do, and it's interesting that you transition to that from Death Stranding because it's like the complete polar opposite. Like I enjoy Outer Worlds, but I was surprised of how it doesn't do anything new ever. Mm-hmm. Like it's exactly what you expect of it, nothing more.
I think they're both similar in that they're both weird niche games that would not have that aren't making their money off of sales alone.
Yeah, no, I don't know, but for Outer Worlds is every time people say, "Oh, I wish we could go back to the glorious good days of this or that genre," it's interesting because you then have the Outer Worlds, which is like, let's grab classic, so Fallout New Vegas, Fallout 3 era, match it with some elements from Mass Effect 2, and create a game that is like, it plays the beats of those inspirations so closely that it starts how you expect it to, it goes how you expect it to, and it ends and it plays the way you expect it to, and it never surprises you. So it's interesting to me because it's not a bad game. I actually enjoy it a lot, and when I finished the game, I kind of wish it was longer. I deeply enjoyed it. It's just that it was the equivalent of like having a long day and eating some food that was made in your household or something that you're deeply familiar with, but it's not going to surprise you. It's frozen just like pizza. I guess it makes you feel it makes you feel good, but it's not going to blow your mind.
I don't disagree. Yeah, I really, really have been enjoying that game, but I feel like it's missing a certain X factor that probably would have been surprises, innovations.
Yeah, it's exactly. Yeah, it makes me realize how much a lot of these genres have been moving since those classic days. Sometimes they move in good ways, sometimes they move in bad ways, but they move. Like, this is a game that doesn't in that sense, and it's good.
This game moves like you're jumping. This game,
exactly.
It's just a weird janky hover above
Yeah.
the ground.
So it's good. I would recommend it to people who like this sort of RPG. But if you're trying to sell it to someone who never fell in love with that generation of RPGs, it's like, it's not going to make anything for you. If all Fallout games didn't convince you, this is not going to change your mind.
How are you playing the combat?
By shooting at things. No, the combat was okay. Once I understood more or less how the element type things work. The game's not very good at explaining its mechanics to you. I had exactly the same issue with Fallout New Vegas, where you just get swamped with information and I don't understand how these different systems interact. And it was only like 10 hours in when I was like, oh, this type of weapon helps with this type of enemy. No wonder I keep dying. But once you get it's like very simple, and it becomes a little bit, at least to me, it became a little bit too easy. Like, once you had one weapon that worked well with every type of enemy, you could just like blast through any group of enemies pretty easily.
See, I jumped straight into the hardest difficulty mode.
Oof.
On the supernova mode, where you have your drink and sleep meters, and the combat plays actually quite different, I think, in this mode than the other ones. Yeah, all the enemies are bullet sponges. You always have to be using your special abilities, your companion abilities, your slowdown timer to stagger enemies and keep them immobile while you and your friends just pummel them with hundreds of bullets. And it kind of feels like playing a single-player Borderlands,
Right.
where you have squad commands for players who are supposed to keep enemies staggered and like aggroed and staggered. Like, everyone has to keep a line of sight on a big bullet spongy boss monster and make a triangle keeping equal distance from them. And that's with like every fight in the game. So I feel like I managed to save myself of one aspect of it that would have made the game less interesting. And the difficulty mode has prodded that kind of play
Interesting.
style, and
What did you think of the writing?
I recommend it. Fine. Like, not necessarily fine, like a good Fallout. I guess I would have thought more if it was a little more novel and creative, but the humor I thought was on point. The Moonhead guy and Groundbreaker, who you can keep asking him about his mask over and over again, and he'll just be like, if you knew what it was like inside of here, you'd never ask. And there's some good quips about jobs and rich people.
Yeah, the good thing about it is that since it doesn't have sequel baggage from Fallout, they could sort of replace the whole like nuclear war thing with Fallout with space capitalism, and that makes for a certain type of humor that I think is more relevant to people right now.
Yeah, I appreciate them updating the shtick. I don't. There's some aspect to it though that feels a little aimless. It's hard to describe, but it feels like Fallout was, maybe it's because of our age. Fallout to me feels like a piece of 90s grunge. Right. Like I can imagine a filthy Nirvana listening teenager wearing a messy smiley face shirt playing this sarcastic game about cheery, happy-go-lucky 1950s capitalism being easy to make fun of. But the messages in the Outer Worlds don't seem as conclusive, because I don't want to say it doesn't pull punches. It just feels like it doesn't go to a decisive place.
Yes, exactly. Like, it tells you like it's trying to say something, but you never get to the place where it actually says something.
Yeah, the villains sure are villains, but they don't seem nasty and rude, and maybe that's the point. I mean, Caesar's Legion was kind of like an intelligent organization with structure and bureaucracy to it, but they still made me mad when they would like victim blame prisoners and slaves. Mm-hmm. The organization here is a pencil pushing space capitalist evil corporation, but they don't like do anything. Yeah, there's no chaotic evil to them. That's the problem, I think. Yeah, they're too lawful evil for me to really hate them as much as I'd probably want to make the story more interesting, give it that X factor.
Right, yeah, I agree.
It seems a little dull and confused about where it wants to go, but it knows really well how to get there. Yeah.
What changed, George? Because you loved this game before, and I was
final act.
I was saying that it was like
it's meandering to this ending.
It ended before it even started.
Yep, that's the thing. It took me a hell of a lot longer. I was playing on a hell of a lot difficulty mode, but I see what you mean. I was about to get to the final dungeon, the final mission. You could tell like they were making sure you're wrapping up everyone's companion quest. Oh, and the fire alarm's going off in my house. Yeah. Okay. I can tell the game's meandering and stumbling its way to the end. It's like a lot of games, they don't actually expect you to get to the 30, 40 hour mark, and statistically you're not likely to. What should I do? I guess should we just cut to a bathroom break? Do you guys have any more topics before we do news?
Is there any way to kill that alarm? Is there a fire?
I highly doubt there's an actual fire for this fire alarm.
Start smelling a fire. Before the break, go watch Watchmen on HBO. It's good. Or steal it.
Oh, shit.
Whatever you do.
God, I'm
it's good.
sad.
It's good
I have questions about that. I know what Watchmen are.
So you're still wearing that old backpack, huh? It's always been good enough, and good enough is good enough, right? Wrong! Once again, that's Steve Clymer, world-renowned naturalist and lecturer, the outdoors ultimate enthusiast. And once again, he's wearing the Archwood FlexTrek 37 Trillion. But this time, he's rocking Archwood's newest model, the Archwood 37 Trillion Augmention. Welcome to Planet Girth. The FlexTrek 37 Trillion expanded Augmention unit combines capacity with flexibility and strength. This monumental FlexTrek model offers the ultimate in durability and control even when fully engorged.
This is Steve Clymer, and I've worn Archwood FlexTrek gear for years, but when the good people at FlexTrek asked me to endorse their newest pack, I agreed only after I put it to the test. The most hostile conditions and the most punishing terrain.
Hey, if you're like Steve Clymer, then you need to be able to count on your gear in extreme conditions, like the desert, where a single rock can tower over you, and even a lowly cactus can soar to surprising height. Humiliate your surroundings with the Archwood FlexTrek 37 Trillion Augmention. She may resist, but Mother Nature doesn't stand a chance.
Consult your physician immediately if you experience an erection lasting more than 10 hours using Augmention. There have been isolated reports of severe back pain associated with the use of Augmention.
All right. Here on the Dad and Sons podcast, we are saving lives.
Saving lives, one dad at a time.
Anyways, yeah, before we were so rudely interrupted by fire safety, Matt, you were talking about Watchmen.
Yeah, Watchmen. I've been watching that. Saw the trailer, and I was like, oh, this seems interesting. Went a completely different direction. Didn't know that it was like a show. Like, they spent some time on this. It's not just some, like, I don't know, you follow one character and you have, like, a villain of the week type of thing. I mean, I didn't expect it to
Watchmen's supposed to be weird.
But, huh?
Watchmen is supposed to be weird.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's supposed to be...
It's weird, and it's shot well.
It's postmodern.
And it's good. It's good. It does dive into racism, but it's not like about racism.
Yeah, I remember that being the backdrop. I read the graphic novel. I didn't see the movie. But I remember the movie being received okay, but when it was coming out, there was a discourse similar to the show, actually, about whether or not it's okay to commercialize The Watchmen. Because it's like... It's supposed to be about the problematic notion of using vigilante justice to sell toys to kids. So I'm wondering if this Netflix show is like a little too
It's HBO.
unknown about it. Is it on Netflix or?
No.
Oh, so you need HBO Hobo Go.
Yes. Yes. It's. Have you watched it, Alex?
No, it sounds the whole commercialization of superheroes sounds super interesting. Is this based on the same comic that they made the movie from?
It should be, yeah. Which it's really funny
It's
how Alan Moore's
drastically
story.
different, though. Yeah.
It's a sad story what happened to this franchise because it was invented to like not become all of this stuff it has become. Like, if you read the original graphic novel, there is a parody of Watchmen action figures in the back sleeve of the book that was really fun to read through as a 16-year-old kid who basically only had experience with Metal Gear and David Lynch with that stuff before.
Oh wow, that's a weird mix. Let me tell you.
Dude, I'm having the time of my life seeing Death Stranding get as weird and deliberately self-aware postmodern as it is. I like this stuff.
Yeah, I should beat it. I'll probably beat it before next week, and you better beat it before next week. God dang it. I'm not going to be alone in this. I'm not. No, but yeah, Watchmen is good. I remember my friend telling me, Fred, fellow game dev, he was like, "Oh, this looks like a gritty superhero show," and I was just like, don't reduce it down to some like Batman clone.
It's a gritty superhero show about gritty superhero shows.
Yeah, it's not that. I swear it's not some type of Batman thing. It's Watchmen. What the vibe you get from Watchmen? That's what it is. It's like gritty, a little goofy, a little weird sometimes, a little comic booky sometimes. It's unique. It's worth a watch, I would say. That's definitely a recommendation. And I've only 4 episodes in. I enjoyed those 4 episodes. Pretty damn good.
So you're probably frustrated by how much more history documentaries I watch than normal stuff.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I actually got one.
Right.
I got a recommendation for one.
Oh, a recommendation? You're going to recommend
I am going to be
history?
recommending a history documentary series, yes.
The Game Changers.
As a piece of companion viewing to Death Stranding, I have found a Curiosity Stream series on Amazon called The Silk Road that follows this French war
familiar.
journalist who goes across the historical route of the Silk Road, tracing the economic history of the cities and the towns, going to the palace ruins and seeing just how far off the trail they are from the modern highways, going through almost the same route, and how the traditional culture of these places is a mishmash between Eastern and Western, and how the modern cultural attitude of a lot of towns on the Silk Road, even nowadays, are still a cultural mishmash between American influences and the traditional ones from back in the day when it was also a mishmash. It's really interesting seeing a program trace the real-life butterfly effects of wandering traders going from town to town connecting people while playing this game about a wandering package delivery guy going from town to town connecting people. Oh god, I can't believe I just did that.
Way to bring it around.
I know, but I have a platform and found something cool, and it makes it gives some kind of sense and context to a video game I'm playing right now, and I wanted to toss that out there. It sheds some light on how things like language barriers or how things like language barriers change how religious text is interpreted across cultures, and how as a weird butterfly effect Byzantinian result of that, you have statues of Buddha in India that look like Greek statues of gods in Italy.
What's the name of this documentary again?
Oh, it's simply called The Silk Road, which makes it hard to Google for because then you get a bunch of like dark web drugs instead.
Yes.
Yeah.
The
God,
Silk Road Online looks pretty good, man.
Yeah, it's that's what I'm talking about. Anyways, So yeah, with a couple non-video game media recommendations out of the way, let's get back to video games and talk about some news. Yeah, okay, Matt, I know that you're always like really disinterested in the news, right?
No, I was just gonna get my pillow and go to sleep.
I'm trying to make this more fun, right? Because we got some weird things happening this week. And I feel like I say
boy.
that a lot.
That's right.
But this week,
Half-Life.
this week was a big deal.
Sorry, I totally forgot.
Okay.
Something interesting happened.
How could you forget?
Yeah. We
The bad news.
it's not just half. Well, there's some quicker mentions if any of these catch our interest. Google Stadia released. It has some stability issues, some rocky launch issues, some negative
Sadly.
reviews.
I have something to say about this.
Okay.
So during, I did a couple of videos on Google Stadia where my hypothesis based on the marketing and the timing of everything is that this launch was going to be a glorified paid beta testing, and that the real money here is going to be the free tier that they're going to launch next year. And I was betting, and I will bet money on this, that they're going to release this free tier like to compete with the launch of the new console generations, to try and like convince people by saying, hey, we're giving you a free console, all you have to do is buy the games.
I read a tweet by that contextually changes the way I like think of Google Stadia. Like right now Google Stadia is a non-issue. Next year when the new consoles come out, Google Stadia is going to be an actual appealing choice for some people.
Yes, I do think so. So I was not surprised to hear, like, even honestly, the launch went even worse than I expected. I got people in my Discord that bought the founders package, whatever it's called, and they're getting like their codes today. Like they didn't even do the basic thing of giving you, like, some people I know had the controller and had no way to play the game because the service, or use the service, because they didn't get their access codes in time. So it was, even for the low standards that I had, I'm a little bit surprised of how catastrophic it went. However, I think it's interesting to note that I was scared that this was going to become another Google monopoly, but in the time like all these issues have been happening, some other companies with a stake in cloud gaming have been like sharpening their claws. And I think there's an interesting result with it. Like, even though xCloud is still in beta testing, they like added a bunch of games just to say like, Stadia has, I don't know, 10 games, we have 40, or to sort of make it into that sort of contest. And I think GeForce Now, which is the streaming service from NVIDIA, announced they're going to be like compatible with your Steam library, so you will be able to play like any game that you own on Steam or something like that. So what I was scared of, which is just Google using their Google resources to own this entire side of the industry, it seems that they actually scared the other bigger companies into like actually putting up a bit of a fight. So I'm deeply interested in seeing how things are going to go once they actually do their full launch with their like free Google Stadia tier.
Yeah, a free tier sounds more appropriate to me because we've played streaming services, both you and I, haven't we? Like,
yes.
Yeah, and they have a purpose, and I just feel like that purpose is for really people without a lot of money to spend at all, like peanuts. The most fun I've ever had streaming a game was when OnLive was selling $1 codes for Saints Row 3. And at that price point, I was willing to put up with some bullshit. It sounds like with Google Stadia, though, you still got to put up with some bullshit. There's a lot of users reporting an overheating problem with some of the Chromecasts that you may or may not, depending on your setup, need to hook up to your TV. Yeah, the 4K streaming thing was also kind of the hogwash. It turns out
you need like 35 megabits per second.
The game's not rendering at 4K. It's just sending you a 4K upscaled video feed.
Oh.
Yeah.
Ooh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's bad.
Well, when you think about it, that sure does make a lot of their pre-release hype make more sense. Remember this? Oh, God. I was there at the convention center in San Francisco when they showed those slides. They're like, streaming for 4K. It's 60 FPS over the internet. I was smirking internally that whole time. I was wondering how that was supposed to work. Now we know.
Yeah.
Now we know.
So yeah, now that that's out of the way, we can go on to the real fun news, and that is the Half-Life Alyx announcement. This is the first time in a long while I've actually felt legit game hype. I am thinking in the back of my head, like, okay, I got 4 months to save up for a big fancy headset. This game's going to come out. Is my computer going to be ready at the time? What sort of videos am I going to be making at that point? Do I got to go on any family vacations? Wait, it's March. Right. Matt, Nintendo Land might be open by then. Shit. We might have scheduling conflicts with the Japan trip planned months in advance because of this thing. Half-Life Alyx looks good.
Oh, that's right.
Half-Life Alyx looks really good.
Play at Liam's house.
I'm having a
At least I
blast.
hear the answer. Everyone just takes turns getting sweaty in his little apartment, little Japan apartment.
Stewing,
Just stewing.
sautéing.
Yummy.
Half-Life Alyx is Valve's flagship VR game. Last year they said they were working on 3 of these. This is the first one to be revealed. There is... I wonder when I should bring in the negativity and the bad points. Okay, let me start with the positive. One of 3 flagship VR games that they previously hinted at. This is the first one that's been revealed. This is going to have exclusive controls for the Valve Index, but it will be available for users of other platforms with WMR and Oculus headsets as well. I am not hedging my bet that my PSVR janky compatibility thing is going to get set up for this, because this is a game where you want wand controllers, and that is hard to set up with the PSVR
Good
on PC.
controllers, you mean?
So I might actually be buying up for it is currently $1,000, but over the next 4 months, I am expecting there to be sales. Maybe I'll get one pre-owned.
Don't do that,
Dude.
No.
Back before I had money, I always bought pre-owned.
Get a Rift S if you're gonna get a pre-owned.
Yes.
Yeah, don't do that.
I'm gonna be looking at my options and spending a lot of money.
It's been used.
Just wipe it off with some antibacterial cloths. It'll be fine.
No, you don't know if they dropped it or not. There's a lot of internal components there that could go wrong. Just you don't want to be like, oh, it doesn't work. What's going on? And I could hear your internal George scream happen.
The mouse clicking feverishly in the background.
It's a pretty sophisticated piece of equipment.
Yes.
To risk it, yeah.
So
it's not
partially agree with that.
Yeah.
in any case, I will be buying a new sophisticated piece of equipment for the PC next year. If there's any reason to upgrade or switch off from the PSVR, I feel like this might be it. Because based on what we've been seeing in the videos, they're very deliberately building a game for VR where you have to use your hands to shuffle around things in tight, crowded rooms in the trailer. Like, you see the character rifle through items on a desk to get ammo with a little healing syringe off to the side they don't grab for some reason. But that's the trailer shows off what is cool about VR games, and that is the stuff you can't do with normal games. It's the hyper cool John Wick slow motion contortions you do in Superhot. It's using your hands to get a tactile feel, like raising a gun to your face and aiming down the sights. They have scenes in this trailer where the character is wrestling a head crab off of their face, or moving a bucket very slowly out of the way so as not to alert monsters. There's fancy reloading animations, it looks like it wants you to do. Man, I love VR reloading procedures.
Yeah, it seems like, have we gotten any original for AAA type games on VR before? Because
There's a
all I can
handful.
think of is Doom, because Skyrim and Fallout were re-releases of older games, but there hasn't been a ton of big AAA high production value sort of thinking.
There's a few, yeah, a handful of a list I can go down, and most of them I feel are on the PSVR side. I mean, my that preconception I feel kind of died for me when I played through RE7 entirely in VR. Like a big
right.
20-hour-long AAA campaign with fancy graphics in VR. That really
I knew it wasn't
ended the
easy.
stereotype for me in 2017. That's the thing. Like, when other people think about VR, they think of these little tech demo games. And when I close my eyes and think of VR, I think of spending hours in RE7 and the multiplayer. Like, the thing that filled the hole for the need for a Counter-Strike in VR on PSVR is Firewall.
Yeah, but that sort of hints at a larger problem being there, and something that Half-Life can solve, which is public perception of where VR is now. Every time I have a conversation with someone regarding VR, and they're like, I don't want to invest on it because it requires a monster PC, the headsets are really expensive, and there's not really that many interesting games. Each one of those 3 points actually has like a counterpoint to it. It's just that the public perception out there of how VR has evolved in the last, 3-4 years, it's not quite fully understood, and this might be the game that helps do that.
Yeah, because it's the most popular one that's doing good stuff. Like, there are other games that have done stuff. It's just no one knows about them.
And they're out there. Like there's on the PSVR side, there's also Blood and Truth. On the PC VR side, there's something called Asgard's Wrath. Have either of you guys heard of Asgard's Wrath?
Yeah.
I'm afraid not.
Matt knows. It's something normal people don't know about. But for whatever this game is, it's gotten good reviews. It is campaign length. It's a VR sword fighting game where you got to use your hands, and it's out there. It exists. 9.4 on IGN, 88 on Metacritic. So yeah, like, there are examples out there, but they don't have the publicity that they need. And the public reaction to this game itself is proof
Yeah.
that VR does not have the install base that it needs.
Another game that's coming out, I mentioned this when we were chatting earlier, Boneworks.
Yeah.
By Stress Level Zero. That game, you can use your fingers, you can move objects. It's a physics VR game, adventure, whatever. But like you the things that you could do in Half-Life, you can do in this game. Move things to the side. Obviously, it's not as like, AAA. The color palette and the scenes are not as like beautiful, but I mean, it's still pretty good. Boneworks. It's made by Brandon, the guy who used to work with Freddie W. The VFX guy. Yeah, he's been making like good VR games.
Oh, Freddie Wong.
Now.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's another game that's coming out like in December. That if people wanted to get into some like heavy physics game where you can use a crowbar to hold yourself up. Like, it's you can just look on a Steam page and you could just do all sorts of stuff. You can grab someone's head and slam it into the wall, and that would count as like a hit. Everything is physics, so you can there's like a balloon gun that you shoot yourself, and if you jump, you can actually float a little bit more now because you have a bunch of balloons attached to you. There's like a lot of different crazy stuff that they've tested.
This hasn't released yet.
No, it's going to be in December.
There's also speculation that Valve is working closely with this team. I don't think there's it's just rumor, more or less. We'll find out when we see the credits at the end of Half-Life Alex.
I mean, it would make sense because it's exactly like Half-Life. When I saw this, I was like, this looks like Boneworks.
Yeah, okay. So negatives are that Valve has for the past 2 years not been in a great place. I think we have complained on this podcast about that before, the direction that Steam has gone. When we were beginning the podcast, it was real bloating and slow, and now there's been competition, and they're revamping everything and putting out a UI. They have not made like a good single-player game in 11, 12 years. They've been focusing their talent and efforts towards hardware and this online store rather than software for the longest damn time. Artifact came and piddled out and everyone already forgot. A lot of the original Half-Life team is not there. One of them just straight up published what's supposed to happen in episode 3 with the names and the titles slightly changed for copyright. But if they did pick up this team that makes a solid first-person VR puzzle adventure, and then they also brought on Mark Laidlaw. I think it was Mark Ladlow last year. Not last year. It was the beginning of this year in January. They brought on one of the original big Half-Life writers. And if they're making that with this team, that's behind Boneworks, that does fit the classical historical Valve strategy of acquiring a team to make a new sequel game. Like, remember that Portal is the product of Kim Swift's Narbacular Drop, more so than it is of Half-Life itself. Like, Half-Life is very much a tech demo franchise. Like, I know there's worries.
They're also
that,
bringing in the Camposanto guys, I think.
yeah. They canceled, I think, a project while they were working on Valve, and they might be involved with this too. Like, remember that Counter-Strike was actually not an in-house team at Valve originally. Portal was half originally not an in-house team at Valve. And then for Portal 2, they brought in another indie game team from outside in the world to work on that project. They were working on the game with the liquid physics coloring dynamic splash tag for what they use for the fluids in Portal 2. Splash tag, color tag, it's aperture tag, there was some indie game about tagging things with colors. They brought the team on, helped make Portal 2. If they're bringing on an indie team that's making VR games, like Stress Level Zero, they did Hover Junkies, right? They're a damn good team.
Yeah, they're good. They're really good. They do like I guess you could call them like dev stories on Node a lot. So you can see how they built it, and every tech demo gets better and better and better.
My fears for Valve not having a good FPS team right now are assuaged by speculating on that, of them working with Stress Level Zero and Campo Santo and giving the old Half-Life writer back on the job. I'm actually just going to straight Google this. Can you hear me trembling in my voice? Like I'm thinking really fast. I'm stammering.
Yeah. Yep.
I don't.
Eric Wolpaw, not Mark Ladlow.
Know
sorry,
if they would be the only ones that work. Sorry, go ahead.
It's Eric Wolpaw, not Mark Ladlow, the Half-Life Portal writer who's working on this one.
Yeah, they might have like got their tech, but I don't know if they worked on it by themselves.
Yeah, when I think of them making a Half-Life 2 length VR campaign, I think of all the other full length campaigns I've played in VR and I've done fine in, starting with RE7. I do want to say, though, like, if you have motion sickness or accessibility issues, that is totally a valid concern. But all
and
of
I'm
the
sorry.
that is completely valid. They should, in a perfect world, make a mouse and keyboard or some other more accessible version of this game for people who are physically unable to play it. But a lot of the other naysaying I'm seeing from people who just, like, don't want Half-Life as a VR game, I don't know if I fully understand it, because Half-Life, like I think I said earlier, it's more of a tech demo franchise. Like, I don't know how much of a real artistically important heart and soul there is to Half-Life, so much as it's applying some heart and soul to whatever cutting edge technology is available that half-decade cycle.
Yeah.
I think people just are worried that they're not going to be able to play it. Once again, because there's this perception of how capable your PC needs to be to do VR, and the fact that most VR headsets, even though they have been dropping in price substantially in the last few years, we can get into that later, it's still like an upfront investment, a very large upfront investment that you have to do.
My fear for that is assuaged by them supporting WMR VR sets, which are dirt cheap in comparison. I might buy up for one of the big ones, but I don't know. I might actually just buy up for one of the small ones, depending on how I
Don't you dare
tackle the cost-benefit analysis. Well, it'll be good to have one for the PC so I can play the PC VR stuff I've been missing out on PSVR. Well, half of the PC VR stuff, the stuff that requires a good controller. A better controller than the PSVR.
Rift S. Just get a Rift S.
I might get a Rift S. I might get a Samsung Odyssey. And I might...
Samsung Odyssey is a Windows Mixed Reality headset.
Yeah.
Yes, get a Rift S. Do not get a Samsung Odyssey. They're good. They're good headsets. Just... you can put in the extra $200, goddammit. It's literally $200. Not now. The difference between Index and the Rift S is pretty ridiculous.
The Samsung Odyssey, though, I think is around $200. Yeah, $230.
Yep.
So when I think of people who are worried that they're not going to be able to play this game, I think back on how back in 2004, I sure as hell bought a $180 graphics card, and I feel like you get more with a $200 VR headset. Like, it unlocks new mediums of entertainment. It's more than a graphics upgrade. You can genuinely do different and more things with a VR set than you can with a graphics card.
Rift S?
No, I mean compared to a
what are you
graphics
trying to
upgrade.
explain?
I'm trying to explain that the $200 upgrades to be able to play this game is not historically unprecedented.
Okay.
It's something I'm quite used to and ready to do.
As opposed to not
Yes.
having it at all.
Right.
Okay, gotcha.
Like, I have spent hundreds of dollars to play high-end PC games in the past, and this feels like coming home.
Yeah, it's just that I think it's not as clear. When the investment is only on a graphics card or on a PC upgrade, it's very obvious what you're going to get with that and what you're going to use that for. With VR, I think for a lot of people it's still not clear what they're getting into and what the investment works for. Usually when I bring up the point of how expensive still VR headsets are, a lot of the people, when I'm doing this on Twitter or on a video or whatever, I usually get hit back with comments or tweets of people saying, hey, $400 is not much. Like, that's what a lot of people pay every year for a smartphone. And yes, but like, you know what you're getting. Like, when you're buying a new phone, you already have a very clear understanding of what that entails and what
and
brings.
use it all the time.
Exactly. While in VR, you don't know if this is something that is really going to change your experience or something that you're going to use once and not really get into. And I think that the biggest problem with VR adoption right now is getting over that barrier, which is why I am both excited and hopeful that this Half-Life game is at least good enough to break that barrier, to be the thing that people get convinced to get into VR and then realize, as George pointed out, that there's a lot of other really interesting stuff out there to play.
Yeah. Be smart. Go to a store or go to your friend's house and try it out. There's a certain percentage of people, low percentage, that just get sick all the time, and then the rest of the people don't get sick or they can get used to it. I'm one of those people who got used to it. I used to get really, really sick when I put on the Oculus for the first time. I was like an early adopter. But eventually, like, a month or two, nothing. I feel nothing.
Yeah.
I could spin around. It doesn't even matter anymore.
Do the whole Resident Evil game in VR. I played all of Subnautica almost. There were a couple days where I didn't. I played all but 2 days of Subnautica in VR. God, that was a good time. That was such a good time. I'm also coming to this from the perspective of someone who spent $400 on a PSVR headset and absolutely, positively past the point of that thing getting its value. Like, being able to hook it up to a PC and play like old classic Nintendo games from my childhood in VR, like being able to walk around, being able to turn my head and look around inside the Deku Tree in Ocarina was just like it was an extremely powerful, moving experience, and it's not like that wasn't the only thing worth $400, but the multitude of experiences from Mirror's Edge to Weird and 64 stuff to Subnautica to RE7 to Firewall, it's totally worth the cost, absolutely.
Yeah, and well, I'm coming from the perspective of someone who spent $150 on a Windows Mixed Reality, and yeah, like, I have put so many hours and stuff like Beat Saber that I'm already sold on the platform. But it's interesting that the timing of them doing this is actually very, very clever and very useful for them. The reason why the Oculus headsets... So, okay, the Oculus headsets, both the Rift S and the Oculus Quest, are... the quality of what you get is much higher than what you pay. Like, there's no way they're making money on those. And probably Facebook is subsidizing that platform heavily in hopes that people actually get into VR and they can actually profit from it. So that is a timing that is very fortunate, because we are now in a point where you can get a very high-end, technologically surprisingly headset on a price that is subsidized by Facebook money, and go use that to play a Valve game. Even the Oculus Quest, which is a standalone headset, barely months ago, they announced, and I think they just released it on beta, this functionality when you can connect a USB cable to it and play it as a PC headset. So it seems, or at least I'm hoping, that the stars truly are aligning for VR to finally happen.
Yeah.
One
about
thing
time.
that I really don't understand is people who are both disappointed and surprised.
Oh. Yeah, no.
Yeah, like
This was obvious. It was
this was speculated, rumored. Gabe has given so many winks and nudges. There are interviews talking about how jealous he is of Nintendo being able to make games for their own hardware. And if Valve's own hardware were these really high-end, expensive VR sets, then it would make sense to think that Valve's been working on a high-end, expensive PC game for their high-end, expensive PC hardware.
And it looks good.
The Half-Life series is historically a fulcrum point for elevating first-person storytelling. Like, a lot of tropes and archetypes and stereotypes that are derisive and silly nowadays are fucking revolutionary back when the Half-Life games were coming out. Like environmental storytelling, like having a bunch of doors in a room but shining a light on the one of them that you want the player to run through. It seems so obvious now, but back in 2007, it was like, wow, they really play-tested the hell out of this level design. And seeing Half-Life gradually evolve into both modern Call of Duty campaigns that are just the most kitschy, commercializable, best-selling, lowest market denominator corporate product of all time. Half-Life has turned into that, as well as artsy-fartsy walking simulators like Gone Home and the Radiator Yang series. I'm really, really excited to see where this one goes as a platform for other campaigns, which will be a possibility because they are releasing a map editor.
Oh, this in particular makes me so excited.
Yeah.
I feel like proper modding tool for games have been a dying breed. And when you think about all the games that started as original Half-Life mods, the idea that not only they're going to release the map editing tools, but they're going to be like right there and ready for VR, makes me hopeful that this is not just the game that convinces people to get into VR for the first time, but also a framework for a lot of developers and modders and indies to start experimenting with making their own VR projects based on this code base and these assets and this engine.
That's what I think is assuaging a lot of my fears for paying hundreds of dollars for an expensive VR headset, is that I am hoping that we'll be buying into what will feel like an engine for VR first-person adventures of all sorts of different styles and genres.
Yeah, absolutely. Like that's one of the most important part of this particular news.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Yeah. Like for everything Valve has done wrong over the past 10 years, it feels like this is an announcement from not that time. Like,
and the fact that it's coming out in 4 months. It's like it dropped out of nowhere.
Oh, I have one more weird point, and that is the haters that say, well, it's not Half-Life 3. We wanted Half-Life 3.
What do you mean?
Did you see?
Half-Life
It's
3.
basically Half-Life 3, yeah.
It is Half-Life 3.
It might as
yeah.
well be Half-Life 3. I'm so sorry that the number at the end of the name is not a 3, but it's the third iteration of the Source engine. It's been 12 years since the previous one. It looks different. Like, it looks cartoony and Fong shaded. Everyone's slick and plasticky looking. Like, it's gonna have a completely different controller interface too. This is the new Half-Life. This is...
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it's not actually Half-Life 3, but in my head it might as well be. Fallout New Vegas is not Fallout 4. And look how well Fallout 4 turned out compared to Fallout New Vegas.
Oof.
Yeah. Did you see the interview they did with Geoff? How do you pronounce his last name? The Game Award guy.
Geoff Stranding.
No.
Geoff Stranding.
Oh. Now that you said it, now I can't remember the name.
Geoff Keighley.
Jeff
Keighley, yeah.
Jeff
Jeff, not
Keighley,
Geoff. Sorry, Jeff.
Yeah. Did you see that interview he did with them?
Yeah.
Because it was actually really good. Like, it had a lot of questions that I didn't expect him to be able to sneak in there, including why isn't this Half-Life 3? And even though the developers went a little bit around, they didn't quite answer it directly. I think their answer was very telling. And Like everyone involved is terrified of the idea of touching
The expectations
with the Half-Life
would be
tag
unreal.
attached to it.
Yeah. And also, like some spoiler ending for Epistle 3, which was the Mark Ladlow blog that he put up with the names and properties changed for copyright purposes. Apparently, if they ever did make Episode 3, I'm going to assume right now that's not going to happen at this point. They just released a prequel that's taking place early in the storyline. So can I give a detail from the ending of a game that never even existed and probably never will?
Yeah, of course. They have been online for like a year.
Yeah. They were planning on switching the character over to Alex after Episode 3.
Right.
So this does seem to make a lot of sense to me. I have been so unoffended by this announcement that for the first time in forever, I feel an actual hype for a video game, but also for the first time since like half a week ago, I feel great anger for the reception it has on Twitter. It's night and day almost. Like on Twitter, I think I got a lot of reluctant replies, and then I hopped on Reddit a few whiles later, and it was like on the front page with all of these overhyped comments and upvotes.
Wait, Alec, it's a prequel?
Yeah, it's going to be taking place before Half-Life 2 and after Half-Life 1.
Oh no.
Why? Okay, explain. Why is that bad?
Why? Why? But because you have she has powers now. Not powers, but she has the gravity gun on her hands that
She has a gravity glove.
Yes. All that doesn't make sense with. I guess he doesn't care about canon. That's right. I forgot. He doesn't care about canon.
I don't care about that cliffhanger ending. I really don't.
No. He doesn't care about canon. He doesn't care that it doesn't work with the writer. He doesn't care that it doesn't work with what happens in Half-Life 2. Because if she had the freaking glove, a lot of things would have been different.
The gravity glove, I don't think is as high-powered a machine as the gravity gun, because in the trailers you could just see they use their fingertips to pick up small things like guns and magazines. A gravity gun is heavy lifting equipment. I'm sure there's an explanation they came up with because it's all fake and not real anyway.
Yeah, I think that's exactly the way they think. So it doesn't really matter, does it? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, in my mind, I have a very hard time caring about canon and stories.
Yeah, it's all good.
Yeah,
it's all good. We're just never we're just never gonna get past that point.
So it's funny that you mentioned Geoff Stranding. The Geoff Keighley 20-minute interview, because he is in the news this week too. We have a Game Awards coming up in a few days. Nominees for the Subway Fresh Indie Game presented by Subway have been announced.
God,
and
what?
Yeah, it's
Subway. Wait, is that a thing? Sorry, I haven't watched it so long. Is that?
Yeah, it's the Fresh Indie Game Award presented by Subway.
Oh, I thought you were making a joke. Are you kidding?
No, that's actually what it's called on the website.
It is on the website.
What? No.
Mm-hmm.
Is this a parody?
Subway? Their sandwiches are garbage.
Fresh by Subway category is for new indie studios that released their first game in 2019.
That's fresh.
How much do you think they get paid for that?
Millions. It would have to be. This is a popular question mark award show. Okay, when I said millions, I guess maybe 1 million might also be a qualifier. But it takes a lot of money to put on a show like this in a big they always have it in some real big expensive venue in Southern California. There's big reveals that and trailers that the award show is more about than the awards themselves. The advertising companies and the game companies pay for those slots, and the awards themselves are a kind of mainstream popularity contest. So the Game of the Year contenders don't have DMC5 on the list. There's RE2, which is good. Super Smash Ultimate, which is interesting because that came out last December. But the show is in November. Game of the Year.
Game of the Year. It's not on the link you sent. I guess.
Okay, yeah. Let me
Let me
jot
go to the
that
full
down.
website here.
I will post it in Discord and Skype.
Nominees. Okay, I'm ready. I'm ready for game. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so Death Control, for some reason's on there. Okay.
What? You liked Control?
Yeah, Control is not game of the year though. Like, where's Outer Wilds?
Outer Wilds?
What?
Maybe it's under indie game,
Why is
under the
Outer
fresh
Worlds
Subway
on
games.
here?
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like it's a bad game. It's just not necessarily game of the year.
Yeah.
I have I feel like I've noticed over the past few years that if a game comes out during one of the border months, like from December to February, it tends to not do well at the award shows at the end of the year because by then it's kind of forgotten about. And Wilds was February, or was it March?
Right.
This is a trash list. This is a trash list.
I
Death Stranding.
I haven't gotten to the esports stuff yet.
This is a
And that's where it
trash
starts
list.
getting offensive for me. I don't know if I am that angry about their Game of the Year nominees. I wish there was more DMC5.
I don't get angry about any of this stuff, but it's still trash.
Okay, so you want more Outer Worlds towards the
Outer
Wilds
Lands.
towards the top.
Wilds.
Outer things.
Wilds. There it is. Outer Wilds. That's a good game. That game made me uncomfortable at sometimes. Oh my god. Okay. Yeah.
Why is Final Fantasy XIV nominated for Best Community? Oh, I know why. I was thinking of the wrong Final Fantasy. My bad. But yeah, I see a lot of esports stuff here, and content creators of the year that I don't know about. Apologies to the 5
None of
men.
these people listen to the podcast. I can tell you right now.
Okay,
Look at these.
I've heard
fools.
of Dr. Lupo. I've heard that name.
These are like probably esports guys. They look like esports guys. Look at those pictures, man. Esports.
Who's Grefg?
I always have issues with the whole idea of a content creator of the year sort of thing on the Game
Yeah.
Awards.
What content did Grefg create?
Partially because of that, of how you define who enters into the content creation category, and partially because I think it's too like centric to a particular type of genre or a particular type of audience. Like there's content creation, there's so many people doing this thing professionally in like a million areas that
Yeah.
it's
He's a Spanish YouTuber.
who?
Grefg.
Huh, interesting. Not heard of him before.
Yeah, it's for a completely different language demographic than the
judgment.
award show.
Wow.
How did that happen? Yeah, his YouTube channel, it's all in Spanish.
Wait, Gref, what's the name of this guy again?
His tweet is all in Spanish too. Grefg, and okay.
Oh man. Look at all these white
It's
dudes.
just I'm not like offended, right? It's just weird that the Jeff Keighley Game Awards are breaking down language barriers. All right, we got an esports coach award, an esports event award, an esports game of the year award, which I guess is different from the regular old game of the year award, an esports host award, an esports player award, an esports team award, and then we're back to regular games with the family game category.
I think you're underestimated just how big esports are in
I
2019.
really am. Is this a generation gap thing? Are
Yes.
are the Zoomers all into esports and
Yes.
we're just crusty and old
Yes.
with our single player games?
Mostly.
Oh my god, why isn't Liam here? Okay, George, I
know.
want you to look at the fighting game section. What do you see?
Hang on, I gotta scroll for a while. Narrative, performance, role
It's
playing.
after family.
Ooh, score and music. Oh, I gotta go up then. Other direction.
Liam, I hope you're listening right now.
Fighting game. All right. DOA 6. Okay. Jump Force. That's probably a controversial choice. MK11. Okay. Samurai Showdown. Wait, did that actually come out? And Super Smash Ultimate. Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Liam
Yeah,
said Smash is not a fighting game.
Well, looks like we're going to have the last laugh in that situation. Super Smash Brothers is officially a fighting game, as you can see here on the official Jeff Keighley Awards list.
Outer Wilds is in the subway section.
The subway station.
It's in the subway. In the subway section, it's a fresh indie game
Presented by Subway.
Oh my god! Why isn't it okay?
Fresh indie game dependent on corporate ban.
It deserves a spot if like Outer Worlds and I don't know, Death Stranding Control. I don't know. Not for Game of the Year.
Everyone
Death
really
Stranding
seems to
for
like
Game of the Year,
Control,
George?
and
I mean,
Death
I like the
Stranding
game,
sold a
but-
lot of copies.
Huh?
Also, the Geoff Keighley associations are
Yep.
going to be uncomfortable.
Yep.
That's very unfortunate. I'm wondering if there was really any way out of that problem. Like, is it worse to just not give Death Stranding any awards, or is it worse to give Death Stranding awards on the award show that promoted Death Stranding 2 years ago?
Yeah, it's unfortunate. He has been fighting this particular topic on Twitter for a couple of days because a lot of people have been saying, "Oh, Death Stranding is going to win Game of the Year because this is a
Geoff
show
Stranding.
made by a Kojima fanboy." And he has actively been on Twitter telling people like he doesn't vote. Like there's a completely different set of people, journalists mainly, who vote for Game of the Year, and he has no involvement in
Journalists?
it.
But it's still
Journalists
more
put
complicated
the
than that.
Outer
Like, the
Worlds?
influence goes beyond the vote. It's also the commercial platform that the show gives these games. So,
Yep.
I do not envy him in that position.
Man, these journalists, man, they're a hot garbage. Sorry, I can say that because I'm not
Yeah,
George
my
and
face,
has
like,
a big following.
flattened
I can
out.
talk so much shit.
Oh my god.
And Alex, you can't talk shit either. You
Nope.
too many subscribers on the line.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. Like
Hot
it or
garbage.
not, we are games media.
Yep.
I could be
Bravo.
that guy. I could be that guy. Outer Wild should be on that list. Greece was good.
Freshest game. Greece
was good.
Greece has gotten some. The thing is, though, there's not much here that I don't think is non-representative. Like, there's some Cadence of Hyrule represented. That was like one of my favorites this year. I'm happy to see RE2 is not forgotten about, which that came out in February, so I was a little worried about it.
Man, game direction. Why is Control on here again?
Tetris 99 is nominated for Best Multiplayer Game, and I am okay with that as well. Like, I'm not. It's not just that I'm okay with that. It's that I like the recognition of a kind of temporary event game still showing up on the list. They didn't forget about Disco Elysium. I'm also happy to see Great Many Outer Worlds. I don't know. You were saying this was like a garbage list earlier, and until I'm scrolling through the esports stuff, I think it's... Well, I also do wish there was more DMC5, but other than that, I think it's at least okay.
No, the game of the year is what I'm saying is complete garbage. Like,
Oh,
that's,
okay.
It's complete garbage. Outer Worlds is on game direction. They need to win at least one award. At least one. The game is good.
It's fresh.
Man. Yeah, it's definitely
it's
fresh.
like a delicious Subway sub
Definitely
sandwich.
like it's
Yep. There you go. You're ready to work on the Game Awards.
It's interesting that Sea of Solitude with all the bad reviews is on here too, which is interesting. Which is good,
Kingdom
I guess.
Hearts 3 for music.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like everything's at least there, which is what you want, right?
Right.
Is everything there? I don't think so.
That they even have Wargroove on there. What's
A
Wargroove
Plague
under? Best
Tale
strategy.
is only in the narrative section, and Control
they still
again
have it.
is here, and Death Stranding is in narrative. Why? Why is why is Outer Worlds here? It is a garbage list. It is ooh no. Ooh. No, okay. I want you to give me an example. Matthew's being too mean, right? How am I being too mean saying that Death Stranding and Outer Worlds should be on a narrative list?
Because I agree with you. I just, like, when I think of garbage, the word garbage, I close my eyes and imagine a summer job where I had to clean the dumpsters out at the movie theater. And I don't know if this deserves that kind of treatment is the thing.
it's a garbage list.
Fair enough.
Like, you know the smell of garbage, right? Of like lemony citrus garbage that's been in the sun all day?
Yeah.
Would you really do that to
it's
this?
like almost like washed up people who, forget it. No, let me not. Let me not. All right, so I can think of a couple other ones already to replace this. And so I can't. I just don't. Yeah. Okay. Anyways, that's fine.
I don't know. Alex, you got any? Like,
Yeah.
everything I've played this year that I've been interested in is on the list somewhere. And, like, granted, they're in weird places, but they're on the list. So I'm okay with that.
Yeah, same. I feel... I always feel conflicted about the whole idea of this sort of awards because a lot of these games are for very different audiences and types of people. So trying to rank them together and say, hey, this is objectively, as you say, it's a glorified popularity contest. But even with that, it invites this discussion of trying to compare apples to oranges in a way that I am not sure I feel comfortable about. I do see things that I feel are interesting. Like, again, as I said before, I have problems with the whole idea of content creator of the year, but I am at least happy that there's someone doing Spanish content in there, because that's a huge world that consistently gets ignored in this sort of things.
Yeah.
But even with that, I don't know. I'm not. It's interesting to watch and to see the people's reactions, but I honestly on the opinion that people take this way too seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, they don't really make or break the success of a product. Like, it's about having industry recognition, and that's an abstract, intangible thing that is what you make of it.
Yes, okay. On one side, I'm like, maybe I don't like the idea of this event representing sort of what we think of excellence in games. And on the other side, I'm looking at the Fresh by Subway in the game category, and I see that, for example, Gris is there, and that makes me happy because that's a local studio from here to Barcelona. I have met the guys who work on Gris.
Oh, nice.
And it's like, to see them there, it makes me feel happy. But I have these two conflicting views clashing. One that doesn't want to give too much seriousness and influence to something like this, and the other that is happy to see games that I have emotional attachments to here. So I don't know where to go.
You know what's not here is Indivisible.
Have you played the game?
No, it didn't turn out well.
It's not great.
I don't see the KFC dating simulator.
Oh.
Yeah, stuff that... If this was God damn it, Matt, I'm so sorry, but if this was a list of or related to the qualities of garbage, you'd start seeing some weird, inexplicable stuff like that, I'm sure.
Like Star Wars is not on here, and they have other stuff on here, right?
They wouldn't know. Star Wars just came out, and they had to vote on this stuff weeks ago.
Yeah?
Yeah.
When do they vote,
there
I
you
wonder?
go.
So Star Wars might be in next year's show.
Yep.
Shenmue 3 should have won like 20 awards. I don't know why
shit,
Kingdom
that
Hearts
came
is
out,
not
right?
all over the place on here.
We skipped Shenmue 3 came out, Google Stadia came... How the hell did a new Shenmue game come out the same day a new Half-Life game was announced?
This year's wild.
What kind of astrological phenomenon are we dealing with?
Well,
I know, right?
I never pay attention to this stuff, and I never watch it. So
on
I
to
don't
listener
care.
question.
And this is exactly why, because when I look at the list, I'm like, these, what? No, because I played all these games. It's like, no. A Plague Tale deserves more recognition. That's a good game. Outer Wilds, good game.
Fresh.
Okay,
Risk, good
but
game.
from
Fresh.
this arguably not fantastic list, which one would you pick as game of the year?
You know, I'm not good at that. I'll tell you that. I'm not good at that. I would have a different collection, I would say. Like the stuff I've mentioned.
I want to say RE2 for me, with Outer Worlds being a close second. Yeah, okay, so that's the thing. I feel like like a lot of great games this year are games that are objectively, if you're going to use that word, not for everyone. Both the Outer Worlds and the Death Stranding were built from the ground up to cater to specific tastes. I think that's kind of cool. Instead of chasing after the lowest common denominator that's turned every fucking game into a third-person sandbox action adventure with light stealth and crafting mechanics, this is stuff that's not designed to appeal to as many people as possible, no matter what.
Would you say that Sekiro is a game that appeals to a wider audience?
Hell no. Control Smash, I think, is the only one on this list that Smash and RE2, I think, are the most like mainstream.
Yeah.
And
if anything, I think it shows how specialized a lot of the game blockbuster games this year have been.
And that's why you never see me mention Sekiro or talk shit about Smash Brothers on this list, is because I can see why that would be on there. The other ones I can't see why it would be on there.
Call of Duty and Gears are not on the Game of the Year category, and those, like, I feel like if this was actually a popularity list of the most mass marketable, lowest common denominator, blockbuster AAA products, you would slide Call of Duty and Gears to take the spot of Outer Worlds and Death Stranding for Game of the Year.
Huh? That is a great point. Yeah.
Because Death Stranding, Sekiro, Outer Worlds, and arguably RE2 are not really mainstream, conventional, easy-friendly games. Control is like a shooter campaign, but it's weird, right?
Yeah.
It has like puzzles and weird physics powers.
It's a weird game. I liked it because it was weird. But is it Game of the Year? Nah.
I like Death Stranding because it's weird, but I definitely would not call it the Game of the Year.
Okay, so I think that brings a more interesting question. What determines, like, because these are, with some exceptions, most of these are games that we have played and been like, okay, they're good games, but they're not Game of the Year. So what does that entail? Like, where do you draw the line and are like, oh, this is Game of the Year material? Because what I'm getting to is that I feel we have a very specific idea of what a Game of the Year type of game looks like, and that it's for many years have almost been like a genre of its own.
But there's something to be said about something just being too not Game of the Year, like just a not a good game ish, you know, like compare like objectively looking at something like this is like Outer Worlds shouldn't be on that list at all. Like, not even close to the list. But it's there.
But remember when I was saying, like, Outer Worlds was feeling like my Game of the Year when I was going through it?
So you're saying that the journalists do what journalists do best and don't finish the game and they put out a review? Is that what you're telling me right now? Because I
no,
would
that
believe
had nothing
it.
to do with what I was
That's what you're telling
saying.
me, George.
I there's a difference between someone's personal Game of the Year and then someone, like, having to take on the job of telling millions of other people what the Game of the Year according to their award show is. Because like my Game of the Year is probably Outer Worlds more so than RE2, but if I had to do an award show, I'd probably vote for RE2 instead because that would make more people happy.
Yeah.
Like that's a game that appeals to more people and does it well, whereas Outer Worlds appeals to New Vegas fans and does that well, but can't imagine normal people liking it as much.
It makes you wonder if the people who are saying that, oh yeah, Outer Worlds, for instance, is like my Game of the Year, have even finished it. They're just saying.
Oh my fucking god, Matt, are you talking about me?
No,
because I'm
like
about to finish
general.
Outer Worlds, and it was still really good. My opinion had dampened in the last act, but it's still really good, and it's probably going to be the most fun I've had playing a game this year.
Yeah, see, that's probably what happens. People don't finish games, and you're not the only person. A lot of people don't finish games.
So let's see. On this list, Death Stranding, Sekiro, and Smash Brothers look like games that would have endings out of reach of the common player.
Yeah, Sekiro, there's no way everyone beat that. So for that to be voted up there, that's really weird. It's really weird. All right. But anyways, we're going around in circles. I'm complaining, talking shit about people who picked this list.
And we're hitting
Alex
the 2-hour mark.
is trying to be a good boy, and George is being George.
All right, I got real if we're gonna do one question this week, if we have time for one question,
Yeah.
let's do the Are Video Games Art question.
Oh my god.
Yeah, we got one. We got one in the inbox. This week, Hans H. sent in us a question asking, are video games art? Not in the sense that some video games are artsy, like your Journeys and your Gone Homes, but can all video games be classified as art in and of themselves?
Yes.
Are you seriously are you trying to wrap this up or actually add another hour to the podcast?
Yeah.
I'm not sure
well,
I understand.
Yes.
I have an answer, and that is yes.
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 Of course, video games are art.
Yeah. Yes, of course.
It's just another way of expressing a feeling, something you want to convey to someone else. It's good.
And even if it's a mass marketable corporate made product with corporate decisions,
God.
there's still human hands on it at some point that are trying to express something some way through some abstract process.
A collection of people making something that someone has to use their fingers or whatever,
their brain.
mind to
it's a
go
product
through.
of a mind.
Yeah, it's nuts, man. It's nuts.
In the 1960s, art got weird because centuries of traditional art genres had become too stifling, and nowadays everything's art. No, I'm not kidding. That's actually like...
Yep.
This has been settled in court. Video games, according to the United States Supreme Court, are art protected by the First Amendment.
And by Germany now. And they cannot be censored.
Oh yeah, you can have swastikas in German games now.
Yep.
Really? Wow, that's weird.
But can all video games be classified as art in and of themselves? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, from
Pretty sure there's a lot of art that people don't like. I mean, you walk.
kids
I walk
playing
into like
tag to Death Stranding.
galleries all the time. Here in California, there's like just random galleries that are open. You just walk in. Sometimes the art is garbage, man. But sometimes you walk into the Dr. Seuss gallery and you see some really cool ass stuff.
Art doesn't have to be good. The Garfield phones, those are art. Sandwiches, those are art.
Fire hydrants.
Coffee
those are
latte art. Well, there still has to be some kind of aesthetic design process involved in the creation of a fire hydrant. At some point, you're manifesting stuff in your head into reality, and that's what it means to be human. The artistic expression of the individual is innately connected to the experience of humanity.
George, is your YouTube channel art?
I hate to say it, but probably yeah.
Oh,
Keep in mind,
that's good.
art doesn't have to be good.
I was having a conversation
There.
earlier about art, and there was this video. It's slight off topic, but I'll just mention it real quick. For people who want to see it, put in Inner Bloom. It's by Rufus do Sol, I think is how you say it. And that they have like this, I think they're filming a tank or something, and they're like moving around paint. I don't understand how. I'll look it up. I don't understand how they're doing it, but it's incredible. It's incredible. So if you want to see some crazy art, watch that. Watch that. There you go. That's something to vibe out as you. I'll leave you something with like homework.
Because, you know, like in the objective nature world, it's just liquid sloshing around. But to us humans, seeing it through this particular frame of reference, it looks like a beautiful work of art.
Yeah, the music's good too.
Like the Dad and Sons theme song.
Yep.